This is the inaugural. It's a weird word. Inaugural. Inaugural Toddtastic Tutorial Tuesday. Our very first session together. Sin Bonzor in the house. Tiny M, we are doing tutorials today, so if you are wanting to learn things, you can ask questions. We can possibly answer those questions as best we can, and if we don't, then we will we'll do whatever else ends up happening, I guess. So if anybody has questions, immediate questions that they would like to know the answers to, help them with their artistic endeavors, fire away and we'll see what happens. Hi, me. I'm recording me on another thing too, so you can see my face when I post this to the bloob tube, you know, that other place where you can view full-length videos, the bloob tube, but you can't say it out loud on how do you draw hands? Excellent question, and always go to, everybody always asks and wants to know hands. So what are some things that are critical to know about hands? First, does everybody know that there are, for most human beings, 5 fingers, believe it or not? I know that's crazy. How do you do that? Proportions. Your palm here and here, this is roughly a square-ish and is about the same length as your longest digit. Okay, so your middle finger is, give or take, about the same here to here. Your thumb is roughly wide that way, etc. So those are just some, whoa, 5 fingers, how did you know that? That's crazy, dude. You got a little bit of a curve, okay? You got your big palm, you got your pinky palm meet, you got your main finger meet here. Okay, these are just some of the elements that are important to be conscious of as you're working on your hands. So the way I like to draw hands is I always end up starting with what is essentially just a trapezoid kind of shape, okay? I'm always going a little more narrow at the bottom than at the top, not crazy or anything, and this is just going to signify either the top of my hand here or my inner palm. Roughly a square, doesn't have to be exactly a square as far as proportions goes, but somewhere in that range. And this will apply to whatever angle you come from, okay? But just from a simple top or bottom view, this is going to be what you're gonna look at. Again, middle finger is about the same length as your palm, so that's gonna be somewhere in here, right? And then if it widens out, your pointer finger is shorter, your ring finger is shorter, not on everybody, but on the average population, and then the pinky finger is of course the shortest. And then the pinky finger tends to be the one that likes to go out the most, okay? If you don't count the palm or the thumb. And then there's this little kind of triangle. You see this little triangle thingy in here? That's going to signify your thumb joint that comes off of that main part of your hand. Boom, you got a hand. Boom, you got a hand. Then you've got your joints here, your bone joints. Typically the one by the pinky stands out the most. You can draw both if you want, and then that connects to your other stuff. And then here's something that a lot of other people get wrong as well, okay? Is they do the knuckles, they don't give any space between the knuckles and like where the fingers open. So in here, in here, in here. They have the knuckles like way up here, too high up here, or they push them out to the sides or whatever. But knuckles are nicely kind of recessed into your hand. Again, you've got this nice little curve. Same thing on this thumb here. And then you've got these tendons and the bones themselves kind of come down in this splayed kind of view. If you were going like super crazy detailed, showing all those things. Your fingers themselves, the longest point of the finger is from the main knuckle to your secondary knuckle, and then there. And I like to consider this like longest, 30% shorter, and then this is 30% shorter than this one. So if you're ever like drawing a hand and you can't figure out like why things aren't working, check your knuckle links. Okay, thumbs are pretty much just, this is already out there. Okay, this is a tattoo on my left hand that says word, and it points to my ring. This is what my wife and I said to each other instead of I do. Aw, isn't that cute? So they were like, do you take? And we were like, word. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so that's a basic hand, just like straightforward, right? So what's the next natural question people ask? Is like fists, or how do you draw I don't know. Ask a question about tattoos. Ask a question about hands. The next question that you would naturally say about a hand. Angles, maybe. I like drawing these little kind of swirly things for the knuckles. Feet. Oh, we're going straight into feet. You don't want to finish up these hand things. Let's work on hands for just a few minutes. We'll come back to feet. Because obviously hands are complex. Pointing a finger, so that's a good one. So if you were pointing a finger to the side, let's do a side view. You got your forearm here. So I would do, so there's this bend here at the wrist. So that's your bone, and then there's this kind of hump bend. Okay, you see that? That tends to, when you do this thing. So I'm gonna do the same kind of mental gymnastics here with my shapes. I'm gonna be thinking about, this is basically a square. Like if I was to make this shape three-dimensional looking, I'm doing that same trapezoid kind of shape, but I'm doing it laying sideways, and then I'm doing it from here to here. Just giving a little bit of thickness from here to here, and then I'll be thinking about my thumb meat and my pinky meat and this stuff over here in that way. So we're gonna have our thumb joint. The fingers are gonna come out. It's gonna be, again, roughly the same length, give or take just a little bit, one way or the other, of the length of the top of your hand, right? There's this meat there. Now, these other joints are gonna come down. It's gonna fold under, right? Weren't covering it up with your work. Right? So if you weren't hiding all of these details with your final inks, that's the stuff you would see in there. Thumb wrapping around the finger, finger pointing out. Nail bed, etc., right? And then knowing all of these things, like really understanding them. DG, I appreciate that, man. Thank you. Tiny M. Fist, we'll do a fist. I'm gonna do this pointing forward too, so we can get a different angle there, and then we'll do fists, because that's always a fun one. Understanding like structural things, like all these elements that make up literally everything that exists. It doesn't matter if it's something as complex as a hand or something as simple as, you know, I don't know, a pen or a pencil or a sheet of paper or wheels or tires or any of that stuff. It's always built up of these other more subtle shapes underneath. So when you start to understand how to think three-dimensionally on a two-dimensional page, it will make assembling these things, when you start to get confused, it'll start to become more, you'll be able to find what you need to figure out. You'll be able to understand, okay, why is this not turning out? Okay, if I can't just freehand this and just do it because I've done it so many times, how do I figure out what's wrong? Which happens with me all the time. I'll come up with a pose, it's super dynamic, it's great, cool, great. But then when I'll get stuck on something, and a hand will look weird or an angle will look weird. And when it starts to fall apart, I will come back and I'll build that shape, I'll build that thing from its base block, its blocks, its building blocks. So if you're doing the same kind of thing pointing forward, you know, and hands tend to kind of have this nice curve. Like if, see if I can get that angle at you guys. You see how this kind of curves down? These knuckles want to come at you, right? Or they want to bend down as you're twisting. So you would curve this shape just a bit. And you would assemble your little finger holes, right? Oh, hey, looky there. This is my trapezoid shape, but I'm building it from scratch. This is this meat here, building there. And then a nice thing, especially when drawing fingers coming forward at you, is you're gonna have a double jointed kind of look almost, right? Knuckle, knuckle, knuckle. And then this is like what I was talking about earlier, where you're going to leave some space. You're not going to have the lines of these fingers come quite up all the way to that knuckle joint. You're going to leave that space. See how there's that gap? And then of course your thumb comes over, and it's going to come at you just a bit. I know it's kind of tough to see that, but you get the idea, right? And then it would help if we had some shadows and stuff in here. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, so doing and then if his forearm coming down, hey man, hey you, hey buddy, hey you. Hey you man, stop, freeze, don't move, whatever, right? Okay, so fists are real similar. And then this is, Saki, what's going on? Fists are kind of fun. So let's say you're thinking, if you want to think about like knuckles, kind of like, has everybody done this thing in school? oh, it's a square, it's two squares and you connect the lines and now it's a cube, right? Knuckles kind of have that effect, except instead of the it being this perfect cube, oh, perfect cube, perfect fist shape, which I think a lot of people do, which isn't necessarily bad. You know, like if you drew this, like nobody's going to be like, oh my God, that's the worst fist I've ever seen. But if you want to take that fist to another, draw an open fist. An open fist is an open hand. How do you draw an open fist? That's a good question. So instead of it being this perfect cube shape, you would do like this, but then like this. And you still connect your shapes because it like twists. Okay, because like if you see that, I don't know if you can see that, it's probably a better angle. That twist, that roll down from your first knuckle to these other knuckles that come down, that just gives it a little more pizzazz. You roll those, the rest of those fingers forward. That makes sense. Fabian Salazar, what's going on? And then of course the classic fist up front. So one thing I like to do with front fists is, again, you curl that down, bend that down. Like the most simple fist is just like rectangle, rectangle, right? Like a forward fist is just rectangle, rectangle. And that you can cheat your drawings for years and years just doing that shape for a fist. 1, 2, 3, get smaller and smaller, build your knuckles, fist, arm, right? So that's a super easy fist. If you want to take that fist to the next level, okay? So when you make a fist, this knuckle tends to, because it's shorter than your ring finger, so it tends to kind of poke out more than these. So what I like to do with that forward fist is I'll start with my basic shape, right? My triangle, triangle. And then I try to use my understanding of shapes to push this knuckle forward. And then these knuckles kind of get tucked under, tucked under, tucked under. See how it's just got a little more, like, you can really tell the character is like squeezing their fist when you put that roll, that turn of these knuckles going down. Okay, does that make sense? It's Darren, what's going on? So push that knuckle forward, and it's, you know, it's more like this shape. And then these roll under. Pinky smaller, ring finger slightly bigger. Biggest knuckle is on the middle finger, and then your forefinger goes there. Boom. Give you've got a fist. How about a pointing finger, but from the side looking at inside of the hand? So do you mean like this way? Tell me if that's what you mean. Diego Silva, what's up? Did I say that already? Okay, so like the underside of your hand, we can do that. So you're still building off these, you know, your little cubish shape. If you notice, you know, just like your middle finger is bigger and your other fingers get smaller, same kind of thing to be thinking about. So we can go back to this very two-dimensional trapezoid kind of shape. Okay, start there. First thing I'm going to do is point out my pointer finger. So because we know this finger, this middle finger, is about is the same length as the palm, when this is bent over, it's about half of that length. Okay. And again, you're going to still roll that hand down. Underside creases to your finger. I'm number one. I'm number one. How to do grabbing onto a mountain. I love it. My pleasure, man. So this is how you draw hands. Ladies and gentlemen, the hand demon himself, Led Nito, in the building. If you don't follow, go follow him. Save some skills for the rest of us. Okay, so how would you do grabbing onto a mountain? That's a good question. So similar to this hand, right? That's like spread open. Like you wouldn't do this to a mountain. You wouldn't like go, grab onto the mountain. You're gonna curl these in, right? So you could literally take this same view and just cut it off. Now, you're not actually cutting the fingers off, right? You're bending them. So you're going to take these fingers, and because your long, straight finger joint is now turned, it's short, right? Because of foreshortening and how that whole thing works. So you're just going to shorten that a little bit. Maybe pick an angle that you like that they're all kind of moving toward. So this would be like a rock, right? I'm a rock and I'm being grabbed onto. And you could apply that to just about any angle, any position, whatever you want to do. Okay, Romeo, no problem, no problem. And then there's other little things that are fun to think about. So like if I pull my pinky down, pulling that pinky down pulls this finger down, my ring finger down, and even my middle finger just a little bit. So if you are, let's go ahead and do a new page. So if we break this down again to our trapezoid, let's say we're gonna do our pointer finger going up, but we want this pinky going down, so this trapezoid's gonna fold over just a little bit. So let's say we want that pinky all the way down. So now our middle finger is kind of starting to, or our ring finger is coming down a little bit, and even our middle finger is coming down. And everybody's gonna have like their own like when you start getting faster and faster, the shapes that you like to use to build your other shapes. So like when I do fingers kind of coming at me, I tend to use like super simple ovals, right? So like a fun one to draw is like the hand just like totally reaching out, right? Kind of like that, right? You're trying to do a comic book, awesome. Did we do fists? We did fists. All right, you want to talk about noses? Let's do a couple more things on hands while we're at it, and we'll cover noses. So again, these shapes are all going to break down into other small shapes. Cylinders, so you got a cylinder, right? The more straight on a cylinder is, the clearer you see or the more perfect the circle is going to be, and the more the side of the cylinder you see, it starts to squish, right? Cylinder starts to squish. I tend to like breaking my fingers down into more like boxes. Just because I think for me, boxes are easier to identify and recognize. So if I'm struggling on something like this, I would start breaking this down into boxes. Thinking about it in those terms. Like, oh, these boxes have to set into the meat of this hand, right? If I'm thinking about where the nail is gonna go, like if it's from this angle, you're not really gonna see a nail. Okay. It's like reaching out to grab on something and running away from an explosion. Yep, that would be a good one. How would you draw a natural hand when it's doing nothing at all? Natural hands are honestly one of the harder things to draw. So they tend to be relaxed. So like if I was doing a natural hand from the side, it would just be very relaxed. Thumb is usually open. This finger is starting to bend in, but it's not fully bent in. And there's common shapes that will help you keep track of this stuff, right? So your relaxed hand isn't going to be like, sometimes people do like the Lego hand. Kind of a thing, but it can all be broken down into your, again, your box shapes. So like if I was struggling, I would go, okay, well, why aren't these working? Find it from there. Casey, what's up? Yeah, so this is how I would probably end up drawing most relaxed hands, because I think that's what I tend to do. Is, you know, if my hand is relaxed, it tends to be in like a half fist thing, right? Just like chilling. That's another good one, is when people are just, hand is up and out. Wrist, hand. Boom, right? Also, don't be afraid to practice drawing hands in a way that that parts of the hand kind of disappear. So like if you've got this crazy wide open hand, and like this, the main finger is like doing this thing. Like maybe you can draw one finger kind of coming this way, but everything else is gone. Or you can draw let's see, what's a good example? When I did my Nezuko, so she's kind of doing this grippy hand thing. But the only other finger you really see is that middle finger, and the rest of them are tucked back here. This is just a Bic. Arm tutorials, that's a good one. Zane, that's awesome, dude. I'm happy to help, man. We had talked about feet, so I said I would do some feet, and then we'll go to arms after that. How's that sound? Because arms are fun, and I actually have done, do it all again. Shaded background we'll get to later. We're gonna probably stay in the basic forms. Again, this is gonna be Tutorial Tuesday. I'm gonna be trying to do a tutorial day like this every Tuesday. So we are going to get into details deeper and deeper. I'm going to be taking what I've done on this particular post, and I'll post like chunks into chunk videos onto that other place where you can see more at length videos. You know which one I'm talking about, the Ploob Tube. Tuesday at what time? 4 o'clock. So I've been on for 30 minutes. I'll try to do event reminders, you know, because I might not be able to make it at 4 o'clock every day. But set your, you know, follow me and stay alert for my lives, basically, and that'll help you.